Real Moms Talking Podcast.
Hi, Andrea. So glad to
Hello.
have you here. Very excited to hear about what you have to say.
Thank
And
you for the invitation.
thank you for taking the time. And before we start, I maybe want to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and what language mix do you have?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Andrea. I'm originally from Germany, but I have Transylvanian Saxon roots. That's a German minority from Romania, actually. Now I live in China with my Chinese husband and our 4-year-old daughter. And currently, I'm pregnant with my second baby.
Congrats.
Yeah, what made me go to China? I just studied Chinese. Um, And I had two exchange programs in China. And during my last one, I met my now husband. And after graduation, I came back to China and I've been living here ever since. Yeah.
Beautiful. How many years is that now that you're living in China?
About 8 years in China
Okay,
now. Yeah.
cool. Super cool. Then maybe I ask you what motivates you and your husband to raise your daughter with three languages, because as I saw, you're raising her to speak German and Chinese, but also English, right?
Yes. So the obvious thing is my husband is Chinese, I'm German, so it is really important for us, for both of us to teach our daughter both of our heritage languages. We want her to be able to connect deeply with each of us. And I believe that kind of connection, that emotional connection, is strongest when you communicate in your heritage language or the language you're most comfortable with. And in my case, that's of course German. And in my husband's case, that's Mandarin Chinese. And we also want her to be able to communicate with family,
Yeah.
with both sides of the family, of course, with her grandparents, cousins, aunts and uncles, of course, everyone. Um, English, on the other hand, slipped into our lives naturally because here in China we have a huge international community. A lot of my friends, foreign friends, as I am, are from all over the world.
Hmm.
And due to the fact that everyone has another heritage language and not everybody speaks Chinese,
Hmm.
the language we use when we're having meetups or playdates with the kids is English.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually. That's really nice to hear. And also, your English is impeccable, so very nice to
Oh, no, it's
transmit
not.
that.
But yeah.
And maybe I wanted to ask you also, how do you divide the languages at home? Do you have some strategy that you follow, so to say, like your own or some of the official ones? How do you do it at home?
So from the beginning, we mostly followed the Opal strategy, I'd say,
Hmm.
but then it turned more into a mix of time, place, and Opal, I'd
Hmm.
say. So of course, my husband only speaks Mandarin Chinese to my daughter. I only speak German.
Hmm.
But over time, yeah, it switched into a time and place strategy also because of our friends and the whole community here.
Yeah.
So Mandarin is our family language. So whenever we are talking together during meals or family outings or something, we use Mandarin.
Okay.
Uh,
Nice.
yeah, I also speak Mandarin when we are with Chinese relatives or neighbors or other group settings where it makes sense for everyone to understand. At the same time, English also plays a role when we're around our international friends. The group language is usually English, and in those situations, I speak English to the group. But if I'm speaking directly and only to my daughter, I stick to German regardless who's around.
I love that part.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. It's not just Opal or time and place. It's a mix of different strategies, I'd say.
Yeah, I feel you 100% with that, because I guess it really depends sometimes on the setting and But
Yeah.
it's nice that this awareness is there, that you're always thinking not to oversee the minority languages, so to say. Because I can imagine that the Chinese, okay, it won't be forgotten because probably
Mm.
in the society it's spoken. But I can imagine that sometimes it's you have to have like this awareness to use German. I don't know
Mhm.
how do you have some other friends or your daughter friends that speak maybe German, or how do you make sure the German is not
In the city
overseen?
I live, yeah, in
Mhm.
the city I live, I just have one German friend.
Okay.
All other friends are from every continent except maybe for Antarctica, yeah. So German speaker in this city just one, but we also sometimes go to Beijing where there are more German speakers, of course. So the Beijing is the closest bigger international city
Mhm.
to the city where we live, and there I have some other friends, but we do not meet up that often, of course.
Okay, but nice that at least there are some speakers,
Yeah,
native speakers. And I can
yeah.
imagine you talk to your family over like video
Video
calls.
call. Yeah.
Exactly.
We also spend every year 2 or 3 months in Germany with my family.
Ah, beautiful.
Mostly during summer because it's so hot here in China and we want just to escape the heat. So that's also a very good immersion for my daughter to
Yeah,
connect not just with the language, but also with the culture.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
like meeting people that speak that language and have the like mindset and everything
yeah.
together is it's really great. Nice. And how maybe looks one day for your daughter in the terms of language exposure? How is the dynamic?
Um, so on weekdays, she goes to kindergarten from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And during that time, she's fully immersed in Mandarin Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Before and after kindergarten, she's with me most of the time, sometimes also with her dad, but he goes to work a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
not always with us. So that means she gets a lot of German input during that time. And when we go to the playground, for example, here in our neighborhood, it gets a little bit more of a mix.
Mm-hmm.
We have Chinese neighbors, the majority is Chinese speakers, but also we have our neighbor just around the corner who is a Chinese British family.
Oh, nice.
So, yes, she regularly hears both Mandarin and English while playing in our compound here. Yeah. And on weekends, all three languages are typically in the mix, depending on what we're doing and with whom we are spending time with. Um, yeah. And then also what I just mentioned before is that we spend 2 or 3 months each year in Germany. That
That's
comes
really cool.
on top. Yeah.
Nice. It sounds very dynamic, but it can't slip away that I'm thinking about does it happen or what were there phases, or maybe is it something that comes regularly for your daughter, maybe that you encounter some resistance or confusion regarding this switching and for example, German, it's not probably like necessity for her. She see that you speak perfect, you know, Chinese and English. How is that?
So that's a really interesting question, actually. But because so far we haven't experienced any real resistance or language refusal for German. The only thing that comes to my mind now is that she sometimes asks me to speak German instead of English when we are with my international friends. I think that's just her way of keeping our usual pattern,
Okay.
which I find really cute because it's just most natural to me
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
use German. I'm my whole emotions and I can express myself best in German because it's my first language, the language I grew up with, and I always from birth use German with her. So it's just so natural to her that she is not expecting me to use another language with her. But the interesting thing is that when we are with my foreign friends, when we have a meetup or something, she will still use English with the other people because she knows that they don't know German, and some of
Mm-hmm.
them also don't know Chinese. And that shows that she has already an awareness of a good sense of language awareness, I'd say.
Okay, no, perfect. Sounds really ideal, I must say.
Yeah.
So beautiful, so nice. And now I remember something that we talked maybe before, and you mentioned that you basically, as you said, you have Romanian roots, meaning that you could have learned or maybe learned Romanian. So, do you speak Romanian? Were you in childhood learning also multiple languages?
Yeah, so that's this is I have to dig a little bit deeper into my background because I grew up with German, the Transylvanian Saxon dialect, and Romanian. I heard that every day.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I spoke the dialect, which is very similar to Luxembourgish.
Mm-hmm.
I think my ancestors came from that region. And then when I went to kindergarten, I kind of felt ashamed of that part of my
Mm.
heritage because Romanian is in Germany is regarded as a low prestige language, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it still is a low prestige language. And when I was in kindergarten, started around kindergarten or primary school, I got bullied for that. I got
Okay.
from my peers in the village I lived in. It was really unpleasant, a really unpleasant experience. And also, my mom told me once that she always felt inferior when she
Mm.
was together with other German moms because they made her feel like,
Mm. It was, I
uh,
guess, also hopefully, I really hope that it was other time and that this mindset is a little bit like gone and that people
yeah,
nowadays appreciate that everyone can express their culture, belonging, and so on in any language they want without getting into problems.
yeah, that's also what I'm hoping for. But at least for this, my brother and I, we just refused everything
Yeah, it's
related to the
understandable.
German language or culture, everything. We didn't even want to eat the food,
Oh
my
God.
mother, nothing. So, yeah, now we all regret it that we don't speak the language, my brother and I.
Mm.
As an adult, I'm really aware how language and identity are linked together. So I want to make it differently for my children.
Of course, yeah.
And I put a lot of intention in everything I do with them, that they are proud of everything they are and where they come from, where their family comes from. So now I do not speak Romanian. I know here and there a few words or phrases. I do understand roughly what the topic is about, but it's really just not good at all.
Yeah, but it's
But my
complex.
daughter is really cute because I tell her about her Romanian roots and that she is Chinese, German, and also Romanian actually.
Beautiful.
And we learn a few words together in bed during our bedtime routine, and she's so super proud of that. And then she calls my mom, her grandma, and then she calls her the Romanian word of grandma, and then she's super happy. And that's actually very cute. So, yeah,
Maybe you pick up where you stopped now with your daughter. Who knows? Or with your
yeah,
kids.
that would be cool.
That's
Yeah.
so nice. No, that's a perfect actually introduction to what I wanted to ask you next, and it is how the extended family and community around you support the influence of multilingual journey, or how they support the whole setting that you have.
Yeah, so we are really lucky that both of our families are very supportive. They are genuinely proud of my daughter's multilingualism and often tell her how amazing it is that she speaks three languages. And that encouragement really boosts her confidence. This, you can really see that. And sometimes she even takes the role of a translator.
So
Like if someone
nice.
doesn't understand something, she'll explain it in the other language. And you can really see how proud that makes her that she can help out in that case. And also, her kindergarten teachers are wonderfully supportive. She just recently told me that her teacher asked her, "Oh, how do you say this and that in English, or sometimes also in German?" And by doing that, they show a lot of interest and appreciation for her language skills.
That's
So that kind of
beautiful.
recognition from both family and the wider community definitely reinforces her motivation and positive attitude towards using all three languages. And I think that's super interesting and wonderful to see. Yeah.
No, I think you have really a great support system, so to say, in terms of language, because it, like with anything else, I think it works the best when everyone is on the same page and like
Yeah.
playing the same game, so to say.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice. And I was also thinking, like you mentioned, English is mostly used in your family for display dates or maybe with
Mhm.
international friends. But was there a time like where you and your husband spoke in English, or is that also a reason why English is there in the mix, or really not?
No, no, not at all. I came to China because I wanted to learn Chinese. And my husband doesn't speak German, and his English is also not that good because China is still a very monolingual country, pretty much. And I just
But funny
wanted
that you
to improve my Chinese.
funny
Sorry?
that you say that China is monolingual country, but I see it, from your story that there are actually a lot of internationals, meaning
Yeah,
they can be exposed to a lot of different
yeah.
cultures and languages. Maybe it
Most
will
of the time
change.
in bigger cities like Beijing or Shanghai or something, where we live in, it's not that international, but
Mm,
still, over the years, you find a lot of friends and they come and go, and the community is changing, but there's still always people here from all over the world. And there are native speakers and non-native speakers. So that's also good for my daughter to see that not everybody is a native speaker, and that's totally okay. And I'm also hearing different accents
yeah.
um, and stuff. Yeah,
Different levels of language knowledge are
yeah,
like in the
sure.
mix. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I find also that very nice for the kids because maybe sometimes they would feel intimidated if they think that
Yeah,
everyone should speak perfect or when they're corrected or something. Right.
yeah.
Nice. And are there any cultural challenges that come with navigating multilingual settings, so to say? And is there some challenge that you see regarding the identities in your family, like when it comes to culture and everything?
Yeah, just the thing I mentioned before is that I'm really aware of how deeply language is tied to identity because of my own story, of my own background. And I try to integrate the German and Romanian culture in our lives in small and joyful ways. Of course, the German culture takes the biggest part, and the Romanian not as big because I do not have the
Mm-hmm.
connection myself that much. But we celebrate festivals, cook foods and dishes. Yeah, as I said, we started learning a few words together, and we do that with the German culture too. I tell her stories about her German family, listen to German music and audiobooks, and I want to just keep that connection alive. And we do that also with the Chinese culture, but because we live here, it's not our focus because she's immersed fully in the
Mm.
Chinese culture, though. So we do not need to do much about it, you know?
Yeah, the work you need to put in is less, I guess.
Yeah. And the thing is, I talk a lot with my daughter about her roots and the cultures she belongs to, because I want to avoid the same that happened to me, you know? And it's really lovely to see because in China, you always often get asked as a foreigner, where are you from?
Mm-hmm,
When
mm-hmm.
people ask her, where do you come from? Because they see me with her, she would always say, I'm from Germany and China.
It's lovely that she has this sense of belonging. I
Yeah,
love that. Like, that's not easy, I think, to achieve in the child that lives in another country, so to say. So
yeah.
nice. And I remember seeing in some of your posts, like some games or activities that you do with your daughter in order to keep the language like
Yeah,
interesting, I think. Can you maybe tell to our listeners some of those stuff, like except book reading, like you said, and cooking, what else
yeah.
do you do more?
So, of course, books are our main resource, for sure. I think that's for every bilingual, multilingual
Yeah.
family. Um, as I said, we organize or join play dates, even if we have to go to another city for that.
Hmm.
Um, for our minority languages. And when my daughter was little, I think a few months old, I introduced a puppet that only spoke German. And this is a really fun way to create the illusion of another speaker in the room. And she absolutely loved it. So I also plan to do the puppet thing with my second child.
Nice.
So
Okay.
puppet's name was Lily, and she was speaking only German.
Hmm.
And it's a really fun way to add another speaker.
Yeah, it's beautiful because it reminds me actually of the thing, maybe you know it also. I learned it from the kindergarten of my kids, that the teachers always said, like, if we could send some toy, like a puppet toy, like
Mhm.
these finger puppets that they can
Yeah,
use if the kid feels some emotions that they are maybe not comfortable expressing with the teacher, but rather with a familiar toy from home,
yeah,
so that they can talk about I'm sad or I'm angry. So that reminds me a little bit of that, connecting
yeah,
someone as a person, even though it's a puppet.
yeah.
So
That's
nice.
that's a cool way, actually. Yeah. What we also do is, and what my daughter's really obsessed about, I had to buy a new set of story cubes. We have three sets or something, which is a great way to spark storytelling in any language. So there's a little cubes and there are some pictures on it. And you just roll the cubes, a dice, and then you can just put together a story. And then
Oh,
you can just
nice.
have a lot of fantasy with that story, and every story is different. And she loves that. That's our bedtime routine for almost half a year now. Yeah.
Okay, the
So I
creative
bought lots
way.
of new sets for this. Yeah.
Perfect. That not only that she learns language, but you spark her creativity in that way.
Yeah.
Oh, so nice.
And then I also made some story question cards. Every time we read a book, she can just we mix them up, and then she chooses a card, and there is some question: who is the main character, or what was the story about? That she just thinks again what we just read, and that she goes deeper. We usually, for each story, we do like maybe 1 to 3 questions, and she
Okay.
loves to pick the card from the whole mix. Yeah.
But it's nice that she's also comfortable with doing that. It's not that she feels
Yeah, we
pressure.
just recently introduced that when she was maybe 3.5 years. Before that, she was too small.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
to,
think they need to reach certain like age in order to be
yeah,
aware how to do that. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
So given that and everything said before, what would be maybe one piece of advice you'd give to the parents that are considering raising their kids multilingual and how to approach whole journey?
Okay, so my biggest advice is don't stress about balanced bi or multilingualism. Um, it's totally normal for bilingual people to have a strong and a weaker language. Um, and Because if you wanted to achieve a balanced bilingualism, you would have to have both languages exposed to the same amount every day, which is not realistic. So don't stress about that. There will always be a strong and a weaker language, a dominant language and a weaker language. Instead of stressing about that, focus on connection over perfection.
Mhm.
This is what I really believe in. So do things your child is genuinely interested in. So let them take the lead. Bring those activities or that interest they have, put them together with the language, that they have fun. And then they would not care in what language it is in, if it's a topic they're genuinely interested in. Um, and there is no need to correct every little mistake or quiz them on vocabulary. So it should feel natural and low pressure, not like school at home. That is also
Absolutely.
what I recommend not to do. And also think about how, not only how much language they hear, but also what kind of input they get. So quality input matters too. For example, say sparrow instead of just bird,
Hmm.
or get specific. Introduce storybooks because there are sentence structures and vocabulary that you won't use in everyday conversation.
Agree.
So books are great for this. And if you don't have a community around you speaking the target language, try role playing real life situations to broaden the context they hear the language in. And one thing what I also feel very strongly about is never use punishment or pressure. If
Mm.
your child prefers the community language, I'm of the opinion that the child should always feel free to choose how and in what language they want to express themselves, even if it's not the language you're trying to encourage.
I'm
So
nodding
if
my
you
head.
focus on,
Like, I agree
yeah, so if you
100%.
focus on connection, that will come naturally because they have so much fun with you, being emotionally connected with you, that language becomes the second and it just comes by itself. Um, you are the role, and you just keep offering your language with love and consistency, and do not turn it into a power struggle. So do not punish them by pretending not to understand them when they use the wrong language, the community language most of the time. I think that is just, you're just basically lying to your child when you do that.
Yeah, I mean,
And that
I
is,
love that what you are saying because I think it's so important to make people aware that it should be all about positive
yeah.
energy in the multilingual.
Yeah, so your relationship comes always first, far before any language goals, because
I
that
agree.
is then a byproduct of your good connection and relationship. And finally, what my last thought about this is just because you are bilingual doesn't mean that your child automatically will be. I'm the best example of it. As I mentioned earlier, this journey takes intention, effort, and daily choices. So do not take it as granted. It will not happen automatically.
That's nice final word. I totally agree. Like it should be this mix, like you said, of doing stuff, but with love and not pressure, just being consistent in what you do,
Yeah,
being aware
yeah,
what you're doing. So
yeah.
nice. I love your conclusion, and I thank you very much for this
Yeah, sure.
lovely interview. I'm sure
It was
our
so
listeners
much fun. Yeah.
will love to hear because I also find your mix totally nice and how to say, it seems very successful how you're doing it. So they have a lot to learn from you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you. And I hope that we maybe reconnect in some time when you are further on your journey and maybe talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And of course, I want to remind our listeners if you liked this episode and you don't want to miss any other, press the subscribe button. And that way you will get notified every time the new interesting episode is out.